Hi, I'm Shannon, founder of Fortune Favours Brewery. This is our brew pub. We opened back in 2017. We're a centrally located Wellington brewery just off Cuba Street. For a long time a dream of mine to open a craft brewery. I love the sociability of beer and the brewing industry and the hospitality industry as well with the brew pub. So yeah, to me it kind of felt like quite a natural progression to sort of step up and open up my own place. So the name Fortune Favours, it's an abbreviation of that popular phrase, Fortune favours the brave or Fortune favours the bold. And for me it was telling my story of, I had been in safe corporate jobs beforehand, and so this was taking a bold move, being brave and actually putting everything on the line and opening my own place. So that the name itself, Fortune Favours, came together quite simply. So before we took over this space, this building, it was a dip stripper. So this sign here we salvaged from the outside of the building. I love the sign. To me it's a real kind of reflection on what we've done with the space. We've repurposed the space, but we've stayed true to what the building used to be, and just love all the fonts and colours on this as well. It's so bad it's good. Behind the bar here you can see our conditioning tanks and the chiller. So again, our approach to the beer here and to the brewery is to have everything on display. So we want to show our customers the inner workings of a brewery, and having the tanks on display like this is a great way to do that. Really differentiate ourselves is by really focusing on our customer and delivering that brewpub experience. So we concentrate and focus on details like making sure we have some really nice glassware, proprietary tap handles, really focusing on that stuff, and then making sure that the beers themselves are really interesting but also really approachable. So we're brewing pretty much a new beer every second week, when we do our experimental series, which is a small batch, which a new one of those is released every week. So basically always bringing out new beers, keeping things interesting, but also making sure that all the beers pass that test of being beers that you come back for a second pint.
I'm Dale, I'm the head brewer of Fortune Favours. Maybe we should go try some beer. First beer we're going to try is the Adventurer. It's a Pilsner, so it's a Kiwi Pilsner, which is a little different than a lot of other countries' Pilsners. Mainly we use a lot more hops, and it's those Kiwi hops that have quite a sort of tropical, interesting sort of character. It's becoming a pretty popular style, especially in New Zealand, and I think some other countries are starting to cotton on to it. This particular one uses Green Bullet hops, which was made famous in a very mainstream New Zealand lager. We use a lot more than they do, so it's got quite a bit more character. It almost sort of ends up in almost like a very pale ale sort of category. But it's a tasty beer. It's one we do in cans, so it's quite easy to get a hold of. Last year's AIBA, the Australasian International Beer Awards, got a gold medal there. We're pretty stoked about that. Yeah, so that's the Adventurer. So the next one we're going to have is the Naturalist. This is another one of our can range. We do 4 cans, and we're going to try 2 of them today. So this one is a pale ale called the Naturalist. We call it the Naturalist because it's unfiltered, so it can have a slight haze. It features 2 really interesting New Zealand hops, Taiheki and Pacifica. Taiheki is it's basically New Zealand grown Cascade, but it's quite distinctive when it's grown here. It's taken on a lot of different character than say US Cascade, and yeah, it has quite a different flavour and aromatic. Yeah, it's a tasty beer. It's quite light sort of profile, but with a really big aromatic. So yeah, light and easy to drink, but still got that really interesting sort of aroma. Alright, so next we do one called the Miniaturist. That is a It's our low ABV beer. It's a 2.5% beer. It's an IPA, sort of. It's a mini IPA, so it's still got all that sort of big hoppy character that you'd expect out of an IPA, but without that ABV kick. So yeah, quite low alcohol. Tricky one to make. The issue there is trying to make a beer that doesn't taste watery, and I think we've pretty well got there. Still it's one of those ones like you can always do a little bit. I'll try something next time. Try this, do this. Maybe add a little bit more of this malt. But yeah, it's a tricky beer to make, and it's tasty, but it doesn't have that alcohol if you're driving or just don't want any serious alcohol. Yeah, that's a good one. Then we've got the Nelsonian. So that's the IPA we have on tap today. We do several IPAs, and our taps change. They rotate quite often. So this is one we have today. So this one, it's called the Nelsonian because it features Nelson Sauvin hops, which are very popular hops. I think brewers all over the world are sort of going crazy for it. Super distinctive, real powerful. It's got a real big kick. Very distinctive sort of flavour and aromatic. So we've got that's our beer that sort of features that. Then we've got perhaps the Leeds Street Estate Rosé beer. And I'm a big fan of this beer. It's inspired by the rosé wine, and it's got a nice rosé colour. And it does have a lot of the features of rosé wine, and that's what we're trying to do is have a really lovely summer, refreshing sort of beer, like a rosé is for wine. This is has some similar traits. So it's got a little bit of a tartness to it. It's got a nice sort of berry note. It's obviously got a sort of that pink sort of colour. It's delicious and just smashable. Then we've got our Gatekeeper, which is a porter, and we call it our Leeds Street Porter because we use some coffee, some locally roasted coffee, and some locally sourced cocoa nibs. So it's got some extra coffee and some extra chocolate, which is characters that porter has normally. We've just sort of added, not too much, it's not over the top, but boosted it just a wee bit, and with a bit of localness there. So it's a bit of a summery collection at the moment. We are sort of in the middle of summer, but like I said, our taps rotate regularly, and as the weather gets a bit cooler, we might see a few more dark beers and something a bit more warming.